Mics are hot. Switching over. Penn State brought the noise on Saturday as the Nittany Lions take care of Illinois 21-7 in a very physical matchup. Shawn, Kane, and Corey Lestochi here will break down what happened and how Penn State was able to move to 4-0 heading into UCLA week. It was a happy homecoming, and we'll be here to answer your fan questions and a smidgen of film room. All that and more in just a second. Thanks for being here. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, wherever you're listening or watching. Welcome in everybody on YouTube. Hope you guys are doing well. All right, sorry about that. A text message. Welcome into Hardcore Penn State Football. I'm Corey Lestochi. With me, as always, the great Shawn Kane. How you doing today, Shawn?
Not too bad, Corey. Saturday seemed to have gone well. As far as tailgate scene looked fun.
Was fun.
Special shout out to my parents. They actually went to this game, decided on Saturday afternoon that they were going to go. It was my mom's first game in like 20 some years. So
they decided on Saturday afternoon to go?
Saturday afternoon, because they looked and tickets were cheap. They were able to find a hotel in Lamar that had some vacancy. So yeah, they drove down and had a great time.
Good for them.
Yeah.
They're more spontaneous than you.
I know, right?
Shawn, yes. Do me a favor and just drop that camera down just a little bit. Let me see that chest a little bit.
Yeah, this freaking thing.
There we go.
It's a weekly occurrence. But yeah, they had a really good time. So that was good. I
was gonna say, and move yourself to the left a smidgen for me too, since you're moving around.
And how was it down there for Saturday? It looked awesome.
Yeah, the tailgating, we got a little wet here and there, but nothing crazy about it. It wasn't ever like downpouring for more than like a minute or two. So the rain, it's been raining in State College literally for like 9 days straight. And we have been very lucky with how little rain we've gotten the last two home games, considering that. So very fortunate there. Very fortunate there. Jay on YouTube, welcome in. He says, Drew Allard played poorly. I thought he took a step this year, but I'm not so sure. Great way to start the show with some positivity.
Going negative to start.
We actually have a fan question about that, which we will get to a little bit later in the show, but appreciate you bringing us all down to get right into it. Pick'em is out. I was able to do that today. Sorry for the delay there, but the Pick'em is out. A lot of perfect scores. Both Shawn and I, maybe there's some collusion involved, but both went perfect this week. Really, so the story of this year for the Pick'em has been the double down. And I think almost everybody got the double down. There's probably maybe a third of the people who didn't get it all picked Michigan to cover, but everyone else nailed it. I don't think anybody except for one person had Maryland covering, and I don't think anybody except for like one person. And now I forget the other one that was. I don't think anybody had Wisconsin covering. So for the most part, everyone did really well in the pick'em. Again, make sure to do that. I think we're still about 40 people doing it every week. So it's been a lot of fun. It is in the description. Make sure you do it before the kickoff on Friday. I can see when people enter and submit theirs, and everybody submitted on Saturday. I did not give you the point for the Friday game. All right, enough of that. So, Shawn, rapid reaction. What are your thoughts coming out of this 21-7 victory against Illinois?
Yeah, I'm gonna start with the trenches. I think a lot of people are going to come away from this game talking about the running backs, and deservedly so. But this is I know enough now to say this. It's the most physical offensive line that I've seen at Penn State. And I include last year's. If you remember a season ago, we did have a good offensive line, but run blocking wasn't really a strength of theirs. It was part of the problem in getting explosive runs, that they weren't holding their blocks well enough. That's not what you're seeing now. And the reason I'm ready to say that is we out Illinois. And this game was really going, and I think Franklin made the point in the press conference, the game was going how Illinois wanted it to go for
Absolutely.
a long portion of the game. And you could see pretty early we were a better team. But how many games has the Illinois of the world, the Iowas of the world won where, yeah, they weren't as good, but they beat you with field position. They would wait for you to make a mistake. We were making them. And then they would just find a way to put some drives together, and then they end up winning. Didn't happen. Penn State just kind of stuck to their plan, overcame some errors, made them make a mistake late, and Penn State made them pay for that interception, and ended up winning the game. So I think it all starts with that offensive line. You think about the resiliency of the offensive line. Sal Wormley goes out early. JB Nelson goes out eventually. I think they're both okay, but still. And Cooper Cousins has to go in, and there's no drop-off. I mean, how crazy is that? And a lot of credit has to go to a guy like Nick Dawkins. I didn't expect there to be all that much of a drop-off from Hunter Nois and Nick Dawkins. I think Nick Dawkins is better than Hunter Nois was here. I think I'm ready to say that. And not that I didn't think Nois was good, but I think we upgraded with him. And to be able to have a freshman come in, play next to you, and there's no drop-off, when you're gashing this team all night, you have to give a lot of credit to the center. And thought tackles played well. I thought that was maybe Drew Shelton's best game this season. So
he pancaked some people.
Yes. So I think it all starts up front. People don't talk about them enough when things go well. So I'm going to. That's what I'm going to start with tonight.
Well, I think people will appreciate that because I think a lot of people would agree with you. Yeah, I kind of am going to stick to a similar point here. In my mind, let me just preface all of this by saying I was wrong with my preseason prediction. I'm officially saying I was wrong. I was wrong about that.
I was going to ask you about that tonight.
So Wisconsin's not who we thought they were. They're a shell of who we thought were without their starting quarterback. So I feel like I get a little bit of a pass there because that's a different game if Van Dyke's healthy. And they did play decently well out in California last week, but that's besides what I'm trying to talk about. The offensive line is better than I thought. They are giving Drew Aller time to throw, and they are, I agree with you, better in the run than they were last year. And that might just be a scheme thing. I think it's kind of a combination of the two. But regardless, they're running the ball better. And I was worried going into this game going into the season that they weren't going to be able to run the ball effectively enough, and Drew Aller was going to have to carry them. They just won a game where they were able to run the ball against a good defensive line. I don't think people understand that Illinois has a very good defensive line. This is not just a Purdue defensive line. This is a solid defensive line that's going to cause problems for a lot of other teams this year. And they were able to run the ball well. And now that I start looking into the horizon, I started seeing this USC team who wasn't able to stop Michigan on the ground. And I feel very good. I think Audrey Snyder said it best. Running the ball, you can take that on the road with you. The run game you can take on the road with you. And having that in your back pocket is going to be huge for Penn State going out to USC, playing Wisconsin. So I guess what I took out of this game was Penn State is tough enough up front on both sides of the ball, because Illinois also tried to run the rock. I mean, Caden Fagan is a huge running back, ended up 13 carries for 64 yards. I think one of that came on a 34-yard run. So otherwise, 12 carries for 30 yards. Just fantastic job there. Josh McCray, the running back who beat Penn State in 2021, 3 carries, -2 yards. So my point is they showed that they have the ability up front to win big games on the road, regardless of anything else. We're going to talk about Drew Aller and the passing and all that fun stuff, I'm sure. But they have the offensive line and the defensive line to win on the road. And that was something I wasn't sure of going into the season.
Yeah, that's a great point that it travels well. Yeah, and you looked at what now Grand Michigan was at home, but Michigan beat them without throwing the ball. Essentially,
Right.
they beat USC essentially without throwing the ball all that much, if at all. I think Orgy finished with about 30 yards passing. And we'll get into Drew. I thought he had an up and down night against Illinois, but he's a better passer than that. So you have that to deal. So if you're USC, you got to deal with this physical run game that just ran all over Illinois.
Can I stop you for a second? Michigan did that without their best tight end in Loveland. So they didn't even have their best player on offense. So imagine if they did have the tight end. I bet they would have at least worked in the play action more if they had Loveland available to them. And Penn State, if you hadn't noticed, has some tight ends they're going to willing to get the ball to in the play action game at the bare minimum.
Sure. Yeah, Tyler Warren is going to factor in there as well. That's a great point. And I think Michigan's defense, I think it's too soon to tell if they're better than Penn State's. I think they have more star power for sure. I think if you told me they have a better defense, Penn State, I'm not going to fight you on it because I think that's very possible. But still, I think what Penn State has on offense is what makes Penn State better than Michigan this year. Going out now, you always have to be careful with using transitive property in college football. Big disclaimer, but I think you got to feel good about that. I think you look at the way this schedule lines up for us. I'm feeling pretty good about my 11-1 prediction, and I am not retracting one gosh darn thing.
I bet not. I mean, how about the diversification on the offense too? We heard a lot in the West Virginia game how they weren't, getting the ball to enough players. Well, they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys run the ball, in which 4 of them averaged 5.7 yards per carry or better. 3 different guys ran for a touchdown, which, by the way, Illinois did not allow a rushing touchdown coming into the game. And then receiving wise, they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys catch a pass. So diversification across the offense, that's kind of what you want to see too. I don't even think, to be honest with you, Trey Wallace ended up with 3 catches, 38 yards. I think they could have fed him more if they wanted to. And by the way, the defensive pass interference when Omari Evans burns somebody kind of lowers the passing numbers a little bit, which hint, hint, nudge, nudge, that's a film room play today. But I think the offense had the ability to do other things. And this is something else I wanted to talk with you about, Shawn. But they also knew that they could run the ball. And when you're running the ball for 5 yards a clip, you don't do anything else. Now, there were a couple times where I felt we almost ran the ball too much, especially in the second half. In the first half, I thought maybe there were times we got away from the run because we were trying to get cute. And then the second half, we had a couple 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8s where we still ran the ball, and I thought we could have maybe thrown it, especially since we didn't really have a kicking game. But for the most part, Shawn, and I'm going to preface all this by saying I don't think it was Andy Kotelnicki's best game, but he didn't need to be because they were able to pick up 5 yards on the ground every play.
Yeah, I didn't like the plays that didn't work, and I really liked the plays that worked.
You love the touchdown plays.
yeah, they're great. I don't know why we don't run those more often.
I don't have the one play in the 4th and 3 ready. I might do it on the late night film room, which I'm going to bring back this week. But the one, right? the Julian Fleming one was a good good play design. And it just didn't get executed. Drew Aller had too much pressure. He threw off his back foot. The ball didn't get there. Fleming ran a good route. If the ball has the right amount of power, it gets to Fleming. Fleming picks up the verse. He had to come back, gets tackled a yard short. But it was there. It just didn't work out. Now, there was a time earlier in the game, Shawn, where it was I want to say it was like a 4th and 2, and we threw it to Clifford for a first down. And then we threw it 3 more times, and he had and basically didn't do anything with it. That was to me a missed opportunity because we had ran the ball all the way down the field, and then we threw it 4 straight times, and I was like, what are we doing here? So some of that you kind of want to take back in hindsight, but it's hard to argue again when you're having success. Just want to see them finish, Shawn. If that's anything that I maybe have an orange flag coming out of this game, is they didn't finish their opportunities. 2 missed field goals, a turnover on downs. You'd like to see them finish some of those times. I want to just say too, if it's possible, can we officially submit a request to expand the red zone from the 20-yard line to the 30-yard line? The way kickers can kick nowadays and the expectation we place on the kickers, the red zone should be at the 30-yard line because Penn State technically did okay in the red zone, but they were terrible in the maroon zone, which we've talked about on this show before. That really is what we should be looking at for offenses moving forward. Were you able to get points once you get in the maroon zone? Call it the 35-yard line, the 30-yard line, etc.
Yeah, that's something I wanted to talk about too. Too many drives stalling out. Because I know everybody's going to get on Sahadak. Yes, we need to look at other options at kicker. 100% agree. But you can't have drive stall out there. It is part of complementary football to not have drive stall out and put your kicker in positions where he has to kick 40+ yard field goals. So you have to make his life easier too. And like I said, I get it. And everybody is upset about the kicking, and I am too. But that's kind of the part people aren't talking about that I'm happy Cory brought up, because it's an astute point that they got to be better on. They got to be better on third down. And then because I think if this game was played 20 times, 21 points would be the lowest total we would get to. And that is the total we got. So it's not even because Illinois did anything all that special per se. It was really just, kind of kicking ourselves, just kicking ourselves and shooting ourselves in the foot. Now, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention the defense early in the show as well.
Yeah. We're probably already getting in trouble for not bringing up the kicking, so we probably should bring up more on the defense as well.
Yeah, because the defense, I mean, that first drive, I was already getting the fire Tom Allen tweets at me. And
I was pissed. I couldn't imagine what you're
Yeah.
getting on Twitter. I couldn't imagine.
Yeah, I mean, they were there. They were there. Y'all know who we are. But then I
know who you thought you were.
I had some reasonable people be like, this is disappointing, and do we have to worry? And I kind of, when you're reasonable, I kind of understand that. But God, they got things together in a hurry, and Illinois really didn't do much of anything the rest of the game. They had a couple of drives early on that were somewhat sustained. I thought the biggest sequence in the game was late in the second quarter when they got us close to the 3-yard line, and although we made a play or two here, and we made a play or two, Illinois pretty much self-destructed, and I felt like that was the defense getting some luck, and that's all they needed, was a little bit of luck, and the rest of it was just dominating them. So just awesome against the run the whole night. Altmaier, they kept running that slant play. Eventually we keyed in on it. Abdul Carter could have had an interception. It was definitely within the cards. And then AJ Harris does have the interception because we started to sit on that. And that was about the only thing really working for their offense the whole night. And then we took that away late in the game. So also love the way we used Abdul Carter, moving him around. And Zane Durant is an animal. So just in case y'all didn't know.
Yeah, we have a fan question on him a little bit later. Let me just say this. Maybe a hot take here, Shawn.
Ooh, what? We're getting spicy.
The crowd won the game for Penn State on Saturday. If that game's at Illinois, I don't think we win. I'm not saying if we played at Illinois tomorrow, we would lose. But if we played that style of game and executed that poorly on the offensive end as far as getting points, we would have lost to Illinois out there James Franklin said they thought the crowd accounted for roughly 7 plays. The crowd, I mean, I don't know how you can't give them credit for the bad snap at the 3-yard line. The false start before the field goal to drop them back 5 yards. As soon as that false start happened, I'm like, they're going to miss this kick now. There's no way. They've gone nothing but backwards, and sure enough, they missed the kick. And then finally, I'll be very clear. I said a lot of bad words when this happened. When it was the original 4th and 6, and we jumped off sides, and it made it a 4th and 1, I was like, oh my goodness, we're going to lose this game. Because that was such a huge play for Illinois having to pass to when they were just going to line up and do a QB sneak and probably get it. So then for the crowd to enforce yet another pre-snap penalty and move them back to a 4th and 6, and then the interception happens. I mean, that was a huge moment in the game that the crowd was able to cause. Without that, I mean, the crowd literally saved the defense in that situation, at least from moving the sticks. You can't put a price on it. At least 7 points, maybe even more on Saturday, and they needed them. And I'm with you, Shawn. I was with all the people that were in on your Twitter comments during the game, because when you kick off the ball in a whiteout energy environment, you've got to get a 3-and-out to start the game. And at the very least, you can let them drive down the field like that and score. That was ridiculous. So I was really pissed off early as well. The 3rd and 21 early too, when we had them all backed up, and then can't happen. But the crowd continued to bring it. And I think the defense is lucky, and Penn State's lucky that they had that on Saturday, because it made a huge difference in that football game.
Yeah, no doubt. And, talk a lot about how important having home field in college football is. Especially when you play at a place like Penn State. And there's a reason that nobody really wants to play here for these whiteout games or whiteout environment games. And that's why, playing at a place where your opponent has a touchdown advantage, like it's already 7-0 by the time you run out of the tunnel. Man, that's a huge advantage that Penn State and only a few other teams in the country really have. So, yes, big credit to the crowd. I was watching, some of you guys know I had a wedding that day. I was still able to watch the game on a TV, and the volume was on real low. You could still hear the crowd the whole entire game. Felt like it definitely got, you could kind of hear like the punch in the stomach when we gave up the first touchdown. But it didn't really stop them. As soon as we get, they got up off the mat and just made things really, really hard on Illinois. So yeah, I'm right there with you with the crowd.
Yeah, absolutely. We got some comments here on YouTube. Dakota says, I know people love Warren for his ability to do everything offensively, but some of his blocks on the run plays are fun to watch. I think Tyler Warren is a complete tight end. I mean, Franklin said it. Absolutely agree. Lambda says Tom Allen's best game thus far. I don't know.
Yeah.
I would say.
Oh, want to make one point.
Yeah.
I would answer yes. You know how we keep talking about how we have to start faster? We need to start faster. On offense, we did. But we need the whole collective doing this faster.
I never thought we'd be waiting on the defense to start faster. Seriously.
Yeah, we did it the same thing in Bowling Green game. We just came out and
I think clearly Franklin had a good point on that, because he was asked about that, and I thought it was an interesting response that the offense comes out and they have their first 20 plays scripted or whatever it may be, right? So what that means is the defense is being too predictable early on, where the offense that did their scouting and did their homework, those scripted plays are working against us early on. And then when we make adjustments, that is when the clamps kind of get tightened. So clearly there's we need to be a little bit different early on and not as predictable, which I think is probably easier to fix starting slow on defense than it is on offense. But I thought that was an interesting point that Franklin brought up about that. To your point about the offense, they have, compared to last year, they have answered opponents almost every time they've scored this year. which is just incredible because it really, especially when a road team comes in, but if you're able to answer immediately, the crowd may have got quiet for a second there, but then you score and now they're back in it. I mean, that is a huge, huge moment to answer as soon as Illinois scored. So, and they've done that a couple times. They did against Bowling Green pretty much constantly there.
Yeah, you never. Yeah, that's a good point too. Always have to answer. And, we didn't really start, like even the defense, they did play better definitely as the first half went on, but we didn't start really pulling different stuff out and getting after Altmaier until the second half and finding creative ways to come after him. There are a lot of different blitzes that we just hadn't seen yet this year that people were wondering, is the defense saving stuff? Yeah, they were. And we finally started to see it in the second half against Illinois. And I think we'll be seeing more as the month goes on here.
Yeah, I mean, Jalen Reed was on some fancy blitz packages as well. Jay says, unleash Gronk. So he's already moved on from Aller. He's ready for Ethan Gronkmeyer right now. Appreciate that, Jay. Sticking with the optimism, I see. Lambda says number 6 and number 7 on defense were rough. Saki Wheatley and Zion Tracy. Shawn, I don't know if I am allowed to say what I want to say about Zion Tracy. That was one of the dumbest penalties I've seen. There's been some times where you're like, don't do it, and they do it. But that one was just egregiously awful. I mean, just terrible. I mean, I was another point in the game where I was saying lots of bad words. Unacceptable, in my opinion. Got burned a couple times on those slant passes by Zion Tracy as well. Oh, you brought up Abdul Carter almost having a pick. Early in the game, Tony Rojas also almost picked one off. He was just a little bit late getting back there to the flats. But they had that slant route figured out there at the end. Saki Wheatley. I actually have one on the film room with him for the first touchdown. The 3rd and 21 play, he took a terrible angle. Just terrible angle. And he kind of ran himself out of the play, got tripped up, but he wasn't going to make the play anyway. It's terrible angle to the ball there. That was like an obvious play where you missed Kevin Winston Jr.
Yeah, that's been part of Saki Wheatley's problem. He's decent in he's pretty good in coverage. I mean, definitely has a nose for the football, but he just isn't a very good tackler at this point. You expect him to be better at that, being here as long as he has, and it's part of the reason he's had trouble finding the field. Now this year, obviously, he plays a ton. He's a starter, but before that, you would hear all the time about him taking the ball away. But he struggled with consistency, especially in tackling. So it's just something that I hope by the end of the year he gets better with, because we're going to need him. And then Zion Tracy, yeah, man, that block in the back. And the thing is, Corey, watching it on TV, I saw it coming. I saw him sprinting. I saw the guy that he ended up blocking in the back. I could see it coming. I was like, don't do it. Don't do it. Just let him go. Did it anyway. And I literally jumped in the air. Like, no, before I even saw the flag come, because I knew the flag was coming. And you got to just be smarter than that. And that goes for a lot of guys on the team. Like, if there's one thing that I'm really going to complain about, it's the penalties.
Right.
Because it tends to be the same guys, including some really good players, doing dumb things.
Yeah.
Like, that was the block in the back. Line up right.
The offsides is inexcusable at this point.
The weekly Abdul Carter penalty.
No more jumping. No more jump. We have got to watch the ball. Stop trying to jump the snap count. I mean, I know they're when the play clock is going down, and they all know when the ball is going to be snapped, nobody can block them in the country. They are unbeatable. But the times when they're trying to jump it, they're not Troy Polamalu yet. They're just not. And it's really hurting. It's really hurting them. I mean, I mentioned this on X the other day. I think 2 of their biggest pass plays from Illinois came on free plays because of offsides. They had the one down on the left sideline when they mossed Kimber, and then they had the DPI, which I thought was questionable, on AJ Harris. Both of their biggest plays came on penalties that we gave them on free plays. So that was frustrating. Shawn, I want to ask you, because I was kind of battling with some people on X.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the Rojas situation? James Franklin came out afterwards in the post game and was like, this was a bad call, blah, 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 blah. He thought that Rojas was running towards the ball and the receiver was trying to block him, and he was just trying to get there and make a play. In hindsight, based off the film, out of anything else, the receiver was clearly not trying to block him. And at the very else, before we get into potentially a disagreement, at the very else, Altmaier was 100% still behind the line of scrimmage and still technically was a passer. So that receiver who did get hit, whether it was inadvertent or not, which I will argue in a second, was still a wide receiver. So, and 8 yards down the field, you can call it whatever you want. You want to call it a holding, you want to call it illegal contact, whatever. There should have been a flag thrown regardless of what happened. But Shawn, what are your thoughts on the penalty and what Franklin said, and where do you stand?
I mean, I was kind of surprised that Franklin picked that one to emphasize what Illinois was holding the entire night. USC has just found out too in the Michigan game that Big Ten refs don't call holds. They found out the hard way, and we're like, yeah, get used to it. But yeah, I was surprised he picked that play because when I saw it live, I was like, my first reaction was, why did he do that? Just go get the quarterback. Like that guy, like you said, he was running a route, and all right, I'm gonna go suplex this receiver here that's not even looking at me. Why?
It was a cheaper shot than Franklin made it seem.
Yeah, and to be fair to Franklin, he might have just saw it live. And looking from the sideline, it could be tough to tell, and maybe it did look like he was going to block. But like, still, like if you're Franklin, you got to think like, all right, when you're on the field, the angle that you see could be misleading. Why are you going to pick right there to complain?
You think somebody would have showed him the replay before he made that comment?
Yeah, unless he just stands by what he said, which is possible. I mean, if you want to be stubborn about it, sure. But yeah, I was surprised that he picked that and he didn't complain about the lack of holds, even though the Illinois was just holding the whole game.
Yeah.
Because he would have had a legitimate gripe there. I just don't think that was the best gripe to have, because I totally understood why that penalty was called. Because
absolutely.
You can't just run up to a guy and just knock him out of the way. Who's just like you said, he's not going to block. He's running a route. The
penalty called was unnecessary roughness. I don't know if I've ever literally seen a more, by definition, unnecessary roughness than that penalty. Like, that was literally unnecessary, and it was rough. Some people are still trying to argue with me that he didn't see the receiver. And I'm just like,
I don't know, he planted him.
You don't just run into somebody and do that to somebody. Like, that doesn't just happen. Like, crazy. Anyway, I want to make sure you and I are on the same page.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
I was gonna say let's jump to the film room, but if you have some other thoughts you want to get out real quick.
Nope. I just need to get a drink. I'll be right back.
Okay. Well, no Diet Dr. Pepper yet for Shawn. We'll jump over to the film room and I'll start with the first one here. And we will go through this play. If I can remember how to do this. It's been a second. All right. Okay, so this is play one that I want to show. This was fourth quarter, 11:54 left. 1st and 10. After the turnover, opportunity for Penn State to put this one away. They take a shot right away. Get a little bit of a blitz here. Ball goes up, targeting Omari Evans. It hangs up there for a little bit. DB doesn't even go for the ball, just tackles Omari Evans for the DPI. Great play, ends up Penn State scoring. But what I'm going to argue is this should have been a touchdown, and against better competition needs to be a touchdown. So Illinois is going to bring the blitz, which, okay, that's great. They actually do a pretty good job picking it up. I think the offensive line could have done a little bit better of a job if I just pause it right here. I mean, they did kind of split that double team. I think Singleton does a really good job with his pickup. But there is going to be some pressure here. However, as you'll see, Drew Allard, not great footwork, and he throws off his back foot right there for no reason. He could have stepped into this more, and he elected not to. He could have got more on this. Now, for throwing the ball from where he threw it is incredible on his back foot. He threw the ball at the 31-yard line. and off his back foot, he still got it all the way to the 10-yard line, which is just crazy arm talent. But this should have been a touchdown. And although Penn State was able to score on this play, in this game specifically, they weren't able to convert. And if they only got 3 here, or if they weren't even able to score a touchdown at all, what would have happened? And against the good teams, just like I had mentioned last week on the one Omari Evans play where they should have scored, but the ball was underthrown, it could make a difference, a significant difference in a close game. So nitpicking again a little bit on this, but he's underthrown Omari Evans a couple times. And I just want to see him overthrow Omari Evans once, to be honest with you. Like, let's just see him overthrow it and then go from there. But these eventually need to be touchdowns.
Yeah, Omari Evans is one of those guys that's difficult to overthrow. I used to say the same thing about Tyreek Hill, though, until Tyler Huntley became his quarterback. And then, he finds a way to overthrow him. And Skylar Thompson just throws wherever Tyreek isn't. But enough of the Dolphins. On this one, I was happy we did that. First off, I was happy we called this because I think I started seeing on Twitter, why aren't we throwing it deep more? Part of the reason was Illinois was taking it away. They ran a lot of cover 3, a lot of too high safeties. So when you're doing that, the advantage of that is to take away the deep ball. Disadvantage is it opens you up to the run game. That's why I ran the ball so much, because it was there. And that shows you that they respect our deep ball, because we never got these looks last year. But still, still want to take a shot sometimes, because good things could happen when you throw the ball deep. We got a penalty. I hear what you're saying about throwing off his back foot. I would say this, though. At the end of the play, not the end of the play, right before he throws the ball, Shelton does get beat a little bit. And if he steps up, he might get clocked. So
I think if that left foot just goes straight instead of left, he stays a good yard or 2 away from him.
Yeah, that could be. But that might have been what he was thinking.
Yes.
I think if Shelton holds his block a half second longer, he might step up, and that could be a touchdown. But yeah, I think that's what happened there. But like I said, still love that we called that, even though they were in that look the whole night, because, again, good ball. If there's a good ball there, it's a touchdown. And regardless, we got an interference. We got an interference called on them. So that's 15 yards.
Also, I just want to mention, because you mentioned not throwing the ball deep enough, there was a couple opportunities where they tried to take a deep shot, and I think Trey Wallace was open in the end zone, but Aller already looked away earlier in the I think second quarter. One other thing I wanted to mention, because I just noticed this, they bring Omari Evans in motion, but they stack the wide receivers here. So by stacking the wide receivers, Omari Evans, who sometimes struggles with press coverage, doesn't have to worry about that. Gets a clean release, which is what basically like Talladega Nights slingshot engaged, and gives them, oh, you know what? I take that back. I'm sorry. It is, but it's actually Omari Evans who just does a great job beating him. It's not even Omari Evans behind him. That's Omari Evans up on the line of scrimmage. So they give a free release to Trey Wallace, but it's actually Omari Evans doing a great job beating the press there one-on-one, which is something that we wanted to highlight. So my mistake, that was really good by Omari Evans in beating that press coverage and getting downfield real quick. So that was awesome there. Jay says, I would like to see the 5-star QB hit him in stride. I mean, I'm kind of getting to that point, but I think you're being a little meaner about it based off of your comments earlier. Let's go to the next play here. We'll go touchdown, and then we'll go back to offense, because I want to save the one play for last. All right. So this is the touchdown that Illinois had, the only one they had in the game. At first, I was going to sit here and honestly just critique Zakee Wheatley, but then I saw that literally nobody on the defense did a good job on this play. So they're basically just running a rub route if you're on offense. On defense, they call it a pick route to get 84 open. And they do a great job here. We're in man coverage. I don't need to explain that to you. And this happened in the Bowling Green game as well, where we didn't have very good communication if we were going to banjo this or swap this or figure out what we wanted to do here. It also didn't help. I don't know if you notice, but everyone's kind of playing at the same depth, probably because they're worried about the run. but it makes it a lot harder if you don't have someone on top of somebody to make that switch. Probably what we should have saw here was the corner and Zakee Wheatley switch. But I also want to point out something. Even if they did their job there, look at right now in the middle of the field. Jalen Kimber is running with his wide receiver. This tight end's about to flash wide open here on the left hash, wide open. So even if they would have done that right on the right side, we also didn't communicate well on the other side. So everybody was open all over the place here. They did a really good job blocking this as well, and it was an easy touchdown. But wanted to say that yes, Wheatley, and I don't know if that was, looks like that was AJ Harris, didn't communicate very well. But on the other side, Jalen Reed's has his head in the backfield. Kimber doesn't switch either if they were supposed to. It would have happened on both sides. Both safeties would have got toast because there was no communication between the safeties and the corners. So wanted to say that Penn State did a really bad job symmetrically on this play.
Yeah, and that was part of the problem after the Bowling Green game, and it's part of why Tom Allen's in the booth now, is problems with communication. So again, playing now, Illinois is a good team. They're still ranked in the top 25. But when you're playing against the USC, who's going to score more than 7 points against you in all likelihood, I hope not, but in all likelihood they will, you can't have these plays. Like, you can't make it easy for them. And this play, we really do.
If I can add one more thing, Shawn, this is really nitpicky. But watch Deni Dennis Sutton here. He's going to try to get around this running back. You know what? It is Deni Dennis Sutton. I would really seriously rather see him run through this guy because Luke Altmaier, not a big, actually, honestly, he ran quite a bit, not a great athlete. But if he goes too far on the outside here and everything's covered, theoretically, you're creating a lane for Altmaier to run. J.J. McCarthy did it to Penn State all the time. It's subtle and it's not a big deal, but I'd like to see him run that guy over because it wasn't a true cut block. Like, he kind of waited last second to kind of cut him. He could have probably just ran that guy over. I would have liked to seen that happen. You're bigger, stronger. Just run the dude over. But anyway, and by doing that, it also, if you are gonna go to the outside, you give that running back an opportunity to leak out and catch a pass. If you just run him over, he can't do that either. All right, let's go to one more play here. This is my favorite play, potentially, of the entire season. When I saw this play happen, Shawn, in person, I was giddy because I saw the whole. I don't know why I happened to focus on Nick Singleton, but I saw everything the man did on this play, and it seriously is the best play of the season so far. And I don't think it's even close. 7-7 ball game, first drive in the third quarter, 3rd and 7. This is a huge play in the game. You could argue the biggest play because Penn State ends up going down and scoring not too much later. They're going to run pass play here. Nothing's open. Drew Aller's in trouble, and he's able to dump it short of the first down, and Nick Singleton's able to pick it up. Little Saquon Barkley vibes here as far as dumping it down short on a 3rd down, just letting him go pick up the first. But what I want to highlight is the fact that he absolutely crushes the defensive end on this chip block here to help out Anthony Dunca. That is what a chip block is supposed to be. That is just ruthless. And then he gets the ball and runs over another guy to pick up the first down. If that doesn't set the tone for the rest of the game, I don't know what does. That, to me, like, just alarm bells are going off. Like, I had to remember this play, and I had to get a clip of it because by far my favorite play of the season so far. Nick Singleton set the tone for the rest of the half and showed how physical Penn State can be. That was awesome. And I guarantee you, number 17 for Illinois, I don't know if that's Yakis or not. I forget I think it might be. I guarantee you 17's looking around for the rest of the game, wondering if he's going to get ear hold. So great play by Singleton there. One of my favorite plays of the season so far.
Did he chip block better than I would have at JTT?
Yes, by a little bit
you
more.
Think so?
Yes, you would have given that little chicken wing to JTT.
I would have given give Doctor some help.
Yeah, he brought everything on that one. That was fantastic.
Yeah, that was awesome. I completely agree. Because he does a little bit of everything, and it's kind of the evolution of Nick Singleton. Because think about his freshman year, he was kind of give him the ball, let him go. But wasn't a very good pass catcher, couldn't really break a tackle, suspect in pass blocking. And here you have pass blocking. You have him go up, make a difficult catch. It's that Drew doesn't really put it in a great spot for him, but Drew was under duress. Comes down with it. There's a player waiting there for him. He puts his shoulder down, runs him over, picks up the first down. That's the evolution of Nick Singleton in one play. So you'd love to see that.
I love that. The evolution of Nick Singleton. That's awesome. That evolution wasn't written. Never mind. I do want to say they did this a lot in this game. I don't think I'd seen it as much, but clearly this is the answer for AK against man coverage. Is again we see that stacked wide receiver look at the bottom of your screen. I think they ended up playing zone anyway, but that's besides the point. All right, that's the film room. I will take a second here to say, if you haven't already, please, make sure to check out our newest sponsor of the show. Got a couple bottles here at the house. Shawn, I don't know the next time you're going to be in town. But Hidden Still Spirits, blue and white, straight bourbon whiskey. About Time Management gave us the best sponsor we could possibly have for the show. A sponsor that is giving a huge amount of their proceeds for every bottle bought of blue and white straight bourbon to the NIL fund, but also something kind of up our alley as far as, well, partying. So love the sponsorship, love that the partnership, and they also deliver. So if you can't find it in the local PA liquor store, they also can deliver it if your state is cool, like some of them are, but I guess Dorito Bandits isn't. So anyway, go check it out. Pretty good. I'm not a bourbon, snob, but I enjoy it. Do you want to get into some fan questions?
Let's talk to the fans.
All right. If you're watching on YouTube, you can drop some in there, or on X. I see we have 100 people watching live on X right now as well. You can drop some questions there as well, and we'll get to them. But we always ask for questions, and we get to the ones that are tweeted at us first, typically. And we will start, Shawn. Since we haven't covered it enough yet, why don't we start with kicking?
Let's.
All right. I don't know why I'm so little on the screen. Let me fix this real quick. I would be okay.
I feel like I'm pretty big too.
Yeah. You're big, I'm short, but I'll fix that in a second. This question here is from Jason. And it is, how in the world was Xander Sahadak the best kicker out of camp? Where is the experienced kicker they got from the transfer portal? So before I let you answer, Shawn, I'll just give like what we know. Audrey Snyder asked about it, and James Franklin kind of like got a little offensive about it. Like, do they do better in practice is basically what Audrey Snyder asked. And he's like, well, yeah, like the best guy is out there because he did the best in practice, which is kind of a hard question, but I think I know what Audrey Snyder was trying to get at, like how well or what is the gap between them? But it was a hard question to answer. But Xander Zahadak, we are told, has done the best at practice. To answer the second part of the question, Chase Meyer, the kicker they got out of Tulsa, clearly isn't even number 2 because Ryan Barker came in the walk-on to kick the final extra point. So that is where we stand. Shawn, what are your thoughts on Xander Zahadak and the kicking situation as a whole?
Yeah, it's tough, right? Now, keep in mind, Xander won the competition out of camp back-to-back years. And last season, he misses his first 2 kicks of the year. And then Alex Falcons comes in and we never look back. And Falcons is the kicker, does really, really well for Penn State. This year, just kind of a similar thing. Now, he made a couple against Bowling Green, which ended up being big kicks. So credit to him on that one. But yeah, this is a problem. I mean, he's 3 for 9 for his career, and Lord, that ain't good enough. not by a long shot. So he has to be better, or there's got to be somebody else here. And supposedly we have 2 guys who could do the job. So it only makes sense to open this back up. And there are some guys that evidently he does really well in practice, but there's something about getting out there during a game where everybody's watching, and sometimes you just don't do this. You just don't do the same. And I think that seems to be what's happening here. And he has a bit of a case of the yips. So, it's tough to watch. It's tough to experience. And the thing with kicking too, like Franklin talked a lot about the penalties and all of that. And as far as kicking goes, there's really not much for a coach to do. Like you can't really put this on coaching per se, when it's so mental, and that's really what kicking is. Like Sander has a great leg. You see it all the time. Like he could kick the ball, but it's just not going through the uprights. So to answer your question, what do you do? I guess you try to figure it out in practice.
I think you got to try to get him some easy field goals, right? You got to, which I don't know. I don't know what's easy for him. Maybe it's a certain hash. I don't know, but yeah, it's not a good situation right now, and it's gonna cost Penn State at some point. So, I don't know how they don't start Ryan Barker next week. I just don't. I think you got to really have to figure out what you want to do. You either double down on Haydak right now, or you have to go somewhere else. And I have a feeling they're going to go somewhere else at this point. That's just my 2 cents.
Well, they already did during the game. Barker did.
Yeah, but I believe they went to Barker as well in the Bowling Green game as well. Barker ended up kicking an extra point in that game. So they went to Barker for an extra point before, and I think that's fine, right? Like a pitcher has a bad night, you take him out, right? But you don't just kick him out of your rotation.
Yeah, it doesn't mean your bench necessarily, yeah.
Right. But now that it's happened twice, gonna have to have another conversation where it's like, do we have to go somewhere? So I think you either double down and show your confidence in him, which you could argue against UCLA. You can do that, right? You can run that risk. However, if you do that and it doesn't work out well, then you're going to start a new kicker on the road at USC. I think I would rather have Ryan Barker get some confidence to him at home against UCLA before going on the road to USC. That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, and you really don't have time to sort out the yips for Sander. Like, you can't drag the whole team down. So it's just a sucky situation all around, I think.
Yeah. Let's go to the next question. We'll go from a sucky situation to a good situation. How about that? Matty Ice, longtime listener of the show. Defense would be elite if they could tackle consistently. But his question is Zane Durant our best player on defense? Shawn, you tweeted it during the game. I was reiterating it myself. Zane Durant is a man amongst boys out there. I mean, he is bench pressing people, not just like stuffing holes and consuming blockers. He's literally making TFLs in the backfield, multiple sacks now. I mean, he's just doing a hell of a job right now. I know he doesn't have the size, but I really don't know if that matters from a leverage perspective if you're literally strong enough. I'm not saying he's going to go in the first round, but I don't know how he escapes day 2 at this point. I mean, he's just so productive in the interior, not just in run blocking, but also pass rushing as well.
Yeah, I mean, is he the best player on the defense? I think he's the most complete player on the defense. In that I don't
perhaps
really
the most consistent.
Yeah, I don't really think of too many flaws in his game. And yeah, I mean, it's not huge, but he's also strong. Like, that combination of strength and speed is pretty unmatched by just about anybody in the country. So that's what makes him special. And I know Abdul Carter got national accolades this week, and deservedly so, but you could argue Zane Durant had a better game. Because now Carter had the numbers for sure, and Carter played a hell of a game. I thought Kobe King played really well too.
That sack was just,
I am like, Kobe King is the unsung hero of this defense. I've been on that for about a year and a half now. So and he just cleaned so much stuff up. But yeah, Zane Durant, there's just no weakness in his game. And Franklin, throughout his time here, there's been Anthony Zettel, there's been Kevin Givens. He likes these guys that, aren't the biggest, but they're fast and they're strong and they just have that short area quickness. And Zane Durant is just another in a long line, and I think he's more athletic. He is more athletic than Zettel and Kevin Givens.
The squatty potty, as Matt Millen calls him. The squatty potty. Mighty
Sure,
Jew
Matt
says,
Millen.
we are. Appreciate you being here, Mighty Jew. We have 17 people on YouTube. Make sure you have liked the video and you are subscribed on YouTube. Doesn't cost you a thing to subscribe, only helps us. Lambda says Zane is our best healthy defender.
Well, yeah, that's true. Because KJ Winston would be the best.
Right. All right, let's go to another fan question here. Speaking of Carter, let's go to Carter now. Lucas Powers, longtime listener, says, how can we better utilize Abdul Carter? He's so good pursuing the football in space. I feel like we're limiting him at the edge. I've said similar things in the past. I think he's getting better at defensive end. I think he's creating more havoc even in the run, which is what I wanted to see from him. They definitely didn't have success like running his way. So I appreciate that. And I think he's getting better at that because he's so quick. However, I do think it's important. If Penn State can get a lead on people, I think Abdul Carter is one of the best in the country. I mean, he is going to chase people down like an eagle just snatching up salmon in the river. I mean, he's going to prey on you, and he's going to make your day very, very, very miserable. And I think he did that really well when they put him at the QB spy, let him kind of feel things out. And then once the quarterback's made a decision to run, just chase him down. I kind of reminds me of like a lancer in a medieval time, like just chasing down infantry. I mean, that's kind of the vibe I got
all the analogies tonight.
I do. From Abdul Carter. I mean, that's kind of thing I get. So I agree with Lucas Powers. How do you get him in more of those situations where he can use his athleticism to the best? I don't know if I love him playing on. Like, I saw him line up a little bit on the inside a couple times. I don't know if I love that as much as like when Chop Robinson would do it, because I think Chop Robinson was technically better with his hands and was able to make those interior offensive linemen look silly. But I do think you got to try to find more ways to get him in space, drop him a couple of times, and then, again, at the end of the day, let him prey on the quarterbacks that are trying to escape the pocket.
Yeah, I like what we did with him Saturday. I thought he probably played his best game at edge, ironically enough, and he didn't even play there a ton. One of the things I was a little worried about with him coming into the year is could he set the edge, and he did. Like you said, when they'd run to his side, they didn't get very far. And then, yeah, I think if you just play him there, you are limiting what you're going to get with him. But yeah, line him up over the center like we did. Move him around, have him spy a mobile quarterback. Play Will Howard in a month. I could definitely see him playing a similar role against him because he's a mobile quarterback. So, yeah, I liked what they did last night. I think if you just put him at edge, yes, you are limiting him, but I don't think that's the plan going forward. I think you're gonna see what you saw on Saturday in most games.
And James Franklin had a good point. If they make those field goals and they convert on that fourth down, and there's more opportunity for Illinois to be down more and have to throw the ball more, Abdul Carter probably has even a better day, right? And then if the other the opposite side happens and they don't have a lead there, Abdul Carter probably doesn't win national accolades. So that's a good point there. I also wanted to mention here, Jay did give us a positive comment for once. He says Kobe is so underrated and underappreciated. So there we go, Jay. We got a positive comment out of you after all. Appreciate that. Let's go to Drew Aller, because we got a question here from Brennan Malinovich, who gave us some great questions throughout time. His question was, Drew was efficient Saturday, missed a few throws, but did not throw into danger. How do you feel about year 1 to year 2, Drew? Shawn, I'll let you go first.
I'm very interested to hear your answer on this, but I will take it first. I still feel good about him. I think he missed some throws, some easier throws that he should have made. My dad texted me because it happened. He was in WJ, so it happened right in front of him when Harrison Wallace was wide open in the end zone. So I know he missed some throws downfield, which is fair. But he's still playing with the confidence, and I've been on this since last year. If he plays with the swagger, if he plays with the confidence, he doesn't play scared, he's going to be fine. Now, did he revert back into some of his old tendencies on Saturday? He did a little bit. There was also the time that he drifted into a sack, which you don't really love to see. That was something that you saw a couple times last year. He would start to drift in the pocket, and I was thinking that we were over that. Unfortunately, we saw it again. So it's about getting those old habits out now. And hopefully he did. And that was a good defense that we played. So it was a test for him. I thought he was okay overall. That would be my assessment with him. But we need more. And I think we will get more. USC's defense isn't as good as Illinois'. And that makes me feel better. Now, Ohio State's is better. And that's a whole other animal. But I think he'll be all right the rest of the year.
Yeah, there was a couple throws like the one to Trey Wallace that was just out of reach of him. There's a couple that you're like, man, I just wish you would have hit him. Him and Tyler Warren didn't have like the best chemistry. Like there's a couple really good throws, but there's also a couple that weren't the best to Tyler Warren, which I don't know how we went this far without talking about Tyler Warren running the football, but watching him run the ball was really fun. But to answer the question, I'm very impressed with Drew Aller right now. He is the offense is simplified and it's giving him more confidence in throwing the football. He had 2 throws early in the game on Saturday where he went through his progression, came back to the middle field and had confidence throwing the ball over the middle of the field. We did not see that at all. There were times in the Ohio State game last year where there were guys open in the middle of the field and he wasn't throwing the football. He has the confidence not just in himself, not just in the receivers, but also in what he is seeing. He's believing what he is seeing to throw the football. So I am in a much better, I guess, feeling towards what Drew Aller has shown us so far, especially with his ability to move and make some plays with his legs and the moxie that we've talked about. He's shown, the ability to have some, he was right there with Katron Allen kicking the door down at the end of the game.
Yeah,
that's pretty
awesome,
badass,
isn't it?
Right. So I don't know if he's always worn the chain, but I like Drew Aller chain man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's got that swag to him now. I don't know if it's literally because of the chain, but I feel like it might be. I feel like the chain might be the reason. So I don't know if it was his girlfriend, who I think is still a Buckeye, who got the chain, but that might have been the worst thing she could have done for the Ohio State University, because that chain might be all we need to beat Ohio State in a couple of weeks. But anyway, I'm happy with Drew's. That wasn't his best game, but it was his first game against a lot of man coverage. And so I think he'll settle down a little bit. I think we'll be okay there, which is a good segue into Donnie's question on YouTube, which we do have some more on Twitter, but since it ties in well, I'll just kind of get to it. He says, longtime listener, first-time caller, does UCLA present an opportunity for some big stats for Drew Aller and the wide receivers? Looks like they gave up a lot of passing yards versus Indiana and LSU. So we'll obviously talk more about UCLA tomorrow, which I know we're recording on Tuesday. So you guys are going to get 2 episodes. You're going to have to binge them a little bit. UCLA giving up 7.2 yards per attempt right now on defense, almost 300 yards per game. So they're in the back half of the country in passing. And I don't think UCLA and Indiana have the same abilities that we do to throw the football. So Short answer is yes. I do think there's an opportunity for Drew Aller to have a multiple touchdown game, get over 250, maybe even 300 yards.
Yeah, looking ahead, UCLA, it ain't gonna be a good year for them. Their new coach has work cut out a little bit since Chip left in the middle of the night. and didn't want to recruit anybody.
All right, we got another question here from Dorito Bandit. We ran the ball a lot last night. How much of that concern about Illinois secondary were simply having success running it? So, did we run the ball a lot, Shawn, because we were having success, or did we run the ball because we were worried about turning the ball over?
No, I think it's because we were having success. You had I know at times it felt like we ran the ball too much, and perhaps we did, but I think Kotelnicki wanted to set the tone. Now I think he kind of went back on himself a couple times though, because like Cory pointed out, there was one sequence where he threw the ball 3 times and then punted. So outside of that, that was the tone, and it's the mentality. So we were just like, no, we're just going to physically push them around. This is what we're going to do. So I don't think it's that we had to do it. Now, also helps your quarterback not having to throw against the team that was leading the country in interceptions, and he only had to throw the ball 21 times. It helps for sure, because they were, because a lot of teams tend to get bored running the ball and they're just like, let's just throw it. Like Mike McDaniel likes to do. But this is a team that didn't do that. And I said at the beginning of the year, I'll say it again, we are a running team, and we are going to remain a running team. And I like it. That's what we do best.
Run the damn ball.
Yep.
I'll just say this one point to add to that. James Franklin was asked about why he elected to punt it instead of go for it early in the game. And he said it was because they were playing an Illinois team. They wanted to make sure that, they weren't going to give anything to Illinois. Illinois was going to have to earn it. And in those kind of games, that's what they wanted to do. He kind of equated it to an Iowa game. I don't necessarily agree with that in the sense of I kind of want you to dictate the game a little bit more. But I will say this kind of ties into that to a certain degree of you are running the ball because you're picking up 5 yards a clip. If Illinois was picking up 5 yards a clip, they never would have dropped back to pass. So that kind of, I'm not saying it's the right thing to do, but I'm saying it tied really well into that same mindset that James Franklin, in a way, kind of played Bielema's game better than he did. Which, again, I don't necessarily agree with. I'd like you to just score 20 points and say, try to beat us. But it worked, and that kind of leads me to believe more of they weren't scared of the secondary as much as they were having success. I mean, they took a shot there right after the interception, if that kind of answers your question as far as wanting to. Donnie just asked a question about what we just answered. So we just knocked that off in the same time. Lambda did say punting the ball on 4th and 1 from midfield is unbelievable. I will say too, Shawn, something about a 4th and 1 after the quarter ends, you kind of lose a little bit of that momentum. I don't know if that played a little bit into it, but I feel like trying to come back on a 4th and 1 after the timeout just feels like the odds are against you a little bit more. Everyone's been thinking about it versus getting up and going fast.
Right.
All right, we got one more question here, Shawn, on the offense. One more fan question. This one is, I think this is a first-time question here from Jay Jigglestein, I believe. So appreciate that. What do y'all think about the offensive game plan? This looked like last year the way they wouldn't let Drew throw. I understand the run game was killing it, but where was the play action or other shots downfield? Again, I mean, they took the shot deep right after the turnover. They did look a couple times on the 3rd and shorts and just didn't have much there because, again, Illinois was trying to prevent the bomb and make Penn State earn it, which the bend but don't break method did work for Illinois quite well. And that's kind of what happened. But they did look a couple times, and they just weren't able to connect on very many of them. They also tried to score even with just a handful of seconds left at the half. So I thought they were just as aggressive. They just weren't able to execute as much on that aggression.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying a bit. There was more of what you saw last year, but not totally. Like I said, throwing over the middle. And just things like creativity, doing something different, like lining Warren up at quarterback. And we even ran the bow package. And Cory, I want to ask you a question off this question. Do you want to just run the Warren package instead of the bow package?
Yeah, I'm gonna stop the that
sorry.
recording and we'll go to a different here. So about the Tyler Warren versus Bo package.
Time to have a conversation.
I like both for different reasons, but I will say this, and Todd Blackledge, if you watch the game again, listen to Blackledge, there is something about constantly taking your quarterback out, like Drew Aller out. So I don't mind the Bo package or the Tyler Warren package, but I don't want there to be more of either of those packages over my 5-star quarterback. Just how I feel about it. You get some rhythm, you get some consistency, some flow in the offense. I don't want, if you're going to go a Bo package or a Tyler Warren package, great, but I want you to do that at the same frequency, not at higher frequency in order to get them both more carries. So if that makes sense. So I'm fine with either. And I think they both have their different, I like Tyler Warren, especially more by the goal line. I think I like Bo more around, the 30 to 30-ish area. But I also like Tyler Warren as a tight end, and I like Drew Aller as my quarterback. And I don't want to take away from those opportunities to hurt the defense over the middle of the field with the passing game either. So don't like the frequency if it's going to be increased because of using both of them. And I think I like Bo package more in the middle of the field and the Tyler Warren package more towards the red zone.
I just don't like things that are felt forced. And the Bo package is starting to feel forced. Like, we got to just do it. And it's like, why? Why do we need to do this when there's a flow to it? I think there's a time and place. I think that time and place, and it's not, I don't think we really ran into it so far this year, is when the offense isn't clicking at all. And we have a couple 3-and-outs in a row. You want to throw Bo in? Sure. But it's just feeling a little forced right now. Like, it's something we have to do. And it shouldn't be something that we have to do. It should be something that's just part of the arsenal that we could do. Right. So that's what it's feeling like right now. I totally agree with you too. I think the Warren package, when you get to the red zone, I don't mind seeing it. I don't really want to see it before. Especially like you said, inside the 5. I love it then, because he's also crafty as a quarterback. Like, I think Blackledge said this on the broadcast too. You could tell he's played the position before, because he knew just how long to keep it in Singleton's gut and when to pull it. And that's something you really only know if you're a quarterback. But if you're a guy that never played it before, but you're just really athletic, a lot of times they have trouble with that. So I'm all right with the Warren. I'm all right with them in their right context, but nothing should feel forced. And sometimes I'm feeling the Bo package is feeling forced.
Yeah, I mean, he still ended up with 5-point-something yards per carry, and he's still at 7.6 yards per carry on the season. But I totally understand exactly what you're saying. You don't want it to turn into a Tommy Stevens package late there, where it was like, oh man, what are we wasting our time with? Lambda had a good point on YouTube. He said, I'd take Drew Aller out of the game completely if you're putting in Bo or Warren, to be honest. He's not a decoy and he doesn't block. He creates an extra defender in the box. I understand his point there. At some point, they're going to throw him the ball and then Drew Aller's going to throw it deep. It's going
to happen.
Also, one of the reasons why you don't take Drew Aller out is when they are matching personnel. If you take Drew Aller out of the game, now they bring in a different personnel group to match that. You can now bring Bo Prabila in, or especially if you do the Tyler Warren package with your base offense. And you can do that anytime, and they have no idea. So they can't prepare for it with the correct personnel. That's one of the reasons why they don't take Drew Aller out of the game. But it's definitely something where I'm curious how that continues to develop. And remember, there was a Singleton package. So we've seen Singleton take a snap, and that has disappeared since the first week. But I'm sure it's not completely out of the offense as well.
Oh yeah, you'll see it again.
Does Katron Allen carry the ball one time as a direct snap this year, Shawn?
Probably because he's our more physical back. So you would think in a 3rd and 1, yeah, just direct snap. Just Katron probably gets in first now.
You think we see a big man touchdown this year, Shawn? I just feel like AK is kind of a guy that would want to get a big man touchdown.
If there's one offensive coordinator to do it, it would be him. Have we ever seen that at Penn State though?
Oh yeah, I think so.
Well,
sure.
Like on interceptions, but like a design play to
didn't they give
like an offensive lineman? I don't know if we've ever seen
it. I think so. Do you remember so we gave up a big man touchdown to Michigan State in 2015.
Yeah, that was just rubbing it in.
I swear. Now don't quote me on this. I thought in 2016 we got a big man touchdown back. Maybe not, but I thought we did. The next year, I thought we got a big man touchdown back.
No, I think they wanted to, but I don't think they ended up doing it.
Okay.
Because I think they felt pretty insulted by that. And it kind of was insulting because we were down like 40 points.
That was a terrible game.
But Mark D'Antonio's just kind of a Richard and just did it.
Right. All right. We're good there. Mighty Juice says that 3rd and damn near 30 we gave up drove me crazy. Yeah, me too. And Jay mentioned that he didn't like when they ran it on that 3rd and 7. And I agree. I don't like the Tyler Warren package that much as well. Mighty Jew, I think you joined us late, but we went over in film room that Nick Singleton touchdown as well. So if you go back, you can see that as well. Shawn, am I forgetting anything?
I don't believe so. Let me just check here.
Noon game. I think the spread opened up.
Big noon kickoff.
Around 24-ish.
Yeah.
Might have been 28. Pick 'em. Make sure to do your pick 'em. We shout out blue and white bourbon. We'll be back tomorrow night. I got to confirm, but I think we're going to try to get Donnie Collins on the podcast tomorrow. Hasn't yet been confirmed. He had to get checked with his wife.
I feel that.
Understandable. I think that's all I have. There's still a bunch of people listening. Appreciate you guys listening. If you have not checked us out, make sure you're following us on Twitter at Hardcore PSUFB. If you haven't already, please jump over to YouTube and subscribe to the YouTube channel and like this video. If you're listening on podcast, please make sure to subscribe wherever you're listening. For Shawn Kane, I'm Cory Lestochi. You've been listening to Hardcore Penn State Football. Until tomorrow night,